Welcome to the OTC Markets Podcast. My name is Eric May, Vice President of Client Relations here at OTC. Today I'm very pleased to be joined by Federico Castillo Martinez, Investor Relations Director at Heineken. Heineken is celebrating 150 years in business, and we are very happy that OTCQX has been part of that rich history for the past decade. Heineken was recently recognized as one of the top 50 performing companies on OTCQX in 2023, highlighting another great year of trading on our market. Thanks so much for joining us today, Federico.
Thank you, Eric. Very happy to be here.
Excellent. So it's been 4 years since Heineken's EverGreen strategy was introduced to market. Can you tell us how this has shaped the company's corporate platform over time?
Absolutely. Thank you for the question. You're right. It's been 4 years now. We introduced EverGreen right in the midst of the pandemic with the idea that we wanted to sustain our superior growth through in a very fast-changing world and through turbulent times. And you can get from the word evergreen that it's very much about nature, and of course with the name green in it. And
sure.
It's about how do we stay green throughout the seasons. And boy, have we gone through some turbulent times over the last 4 years. At the time when we were out of the pandemic, we thought that, well, maybe that's it. But no, it came with supply chain disruptions, war, inflation. We've been dealing with a lot of challenges over the last few years. In that sense, EverGreen has helped us enormously to deal with that. We have been very focused on the priorities of EverGreen, which is first and foremost about growth and how we are trying to shape the future of beer and beyond. It's also about digitizing the company, stepping up on productivity, deliver on our sustainability agenda, what we call Brew a Better World, and of course our people, and,
sure.
And how do we bring them on board and develop our talent. And I think that what for me is most remarkable of how we have been evolving over the last few years is how our mindset of being a more consumer-focused company, not that we weren't before, but fair to say that we were a bit more brand-focused. We have a lot of pride, of course, in brand Heineken, and it's the name in the door and the name in the brand. But to be even more consumer-oriented and to have gone with something that we're going to talk about a little bit later, but adapting some of the long-held taste of the Heineken brand in some markets in order to make it more appealing for younger consumers. It's a challenging thing when you have a product which is so consistent and basically should be tasting the same everywhere in the world, right?
Sure.
And not change much over time. So that's it's an interesting challenge in that sense.
You kind of touched on it a little bit, but how does a company like Heineken with such a powerful legacy image relate to contemporary audiences with changing tastes? Not everyone, it changes generation over generation. So how do you kind of balance those two?
I think there's two components to that. The first one is that you have to stay meaningful.
Yeah.
And being meaningful means different things for different people, and perceptions of what it means to be meaningful are evolving. And Heineken has done, I think, an extraordinary job through time to be able to speak to consumers on things that are important to them at different points in time. So staying meaningful by being fun, but being very quality oriented, being able to speak about the great aspects of beer, but also about the beauty of togetherness, of just what you can enjoy by having a beer.
Yeah.
Be it launching the boring phone, our most recent campaign. In case you missed it, I encourage you to have a look at YouTube or on our social media feeds, where given the concerns that everybody has of how intrusive mobile phones have become in our daily lives, to introduce the concept of the boring phone so that you can enjoy more your time together with friends was a bit of a very basic idea, but that people appreciate, the depth of what is meant by that. That's a bit, let's say, on the emotional side of things, and how do you do that? The second one is indeed around the taste, because we have indeed a product that's been almost 150 years now. Actually, we just had the 150 years birthday.
Congratulations!
For the brand, and but yeah, the brand should be tasting the same, and the quality controls around it are very strict, so that the taste profile of a beer that is brewed in Panama or in Ho Chi Minh City or in Laos in Nigeria is the same.
Yeah.
And how do you go about that? But at the same time, some consumers have explained to us that the bitterness of Heineken was a bit of an obstacle for them. And our team in Vietnam actually developed the concept of Heineken Silver, which I see here very nicely displayed on our table.
That's right.
And it's simply the same profile of Heineken, but with less bitterness. And sales of silver began to explode in markets like Vietnam and China. And it gave us the courage to then bring it to other markets, including here in the USA. We launched it now a year ago, and hopefully you will be able to enjoy it, but that is precisely addressing these different consumer tastes. And then, of course, there's Heineken 0.0, but let me leave that one for our next topic.
Sure. Well, I can confirm that you have a Heineken Silver fan here. So maybe more on a personal note, you've worked in the consumer goods industry for the better part of your career. What do you think has been the most important consumer shift over that time?
Well, it's a big question, and I'd like to still frame it a bit in the context of beer.
Sure.
Because there are many consumer trends out there. It will be I don't think it's my place to speak beyond that. But I think the health and wellness is the one that I'd like to speak of, because there's, of course, a few, but that one is very interesting. It is about how more and more consumers are more aware and conscious of their choices and trying to lead healthier lifestyles.
Yeah.
And that is something that many products have come to meet that expectation from consumers, that it's evolving. And one of the ways that we have come about it is precisely with Heineken 0.0.
Yeah.
And it is, the non-alcoholic beers did not have a good taste profile, and you can remember the products that you could get on the shelf of non-alcoholic beer. They simply did not taste well. But as technology evolved and we were able to develop a much better liquid profile, at the moment we cracked it, we put it behind our biggest brand, and we've been deploying it now in more than 100 markets in the world.
That's excellent.
And Heineken 0.0 is precisely addressing that need. So now you can have a beer with a lunch, instead of a juice, instead of a milk, instead of just water, which could be a bit more boring.
Right.
Or you could be at a social occasion where you don't want to have the alcohol, but you still want to have enjoyment. And so, you can have a product that can help you connect with others and be part of the party without missing out to some extent.
Yeah, it's been very interesting to see the success of Heineken 0. It's been excellent.
It's the #1 non-alcoholic brand in the US.
Wow, it's great to know. So, as a national champion of the Netherlands, how important is it to Heineken to maintain your Dutch listing along with OTCQX, kind of as part of your overall global strategy?
It's super important.
Yeah.
We actually just held our 85th anniversary of our listing in Amsterdam. So Heineken became listed for the first time in 1939, and Heineken is actually one of the anchor founders of the stock exchange in the Netherlands, the Euronext as it stands today. And we are a Dutch company, and with a lot of its values actually very closely connected to the Dutch culture. And yeah, I think that it is our home for many reasons, and I think the entire company is very proud of it. If you think not only about brand Heineken, but Amstel, you know, it's
Sure.
also the brand of the river of Amsterdam. So, there's a lot of emotional connections, and I think there's a lot of sense for us to continue with that. You may have seen some corporates that have actually left the Netherlands, of important companies like Unilever, like Shell. But yeah, Heineken, I think, is there to stay, and I think we are trying to engage more actively with the Dutch society, so that also the right things are done for big corporations like ours to continue to thrive together with the community doing business in the Netherlands. And of course, being a European company, we also don't want to miss out on the US market.
Of course.
And that's why OTC becomes it's such an important platform for us. We are able to promote our AR program through this platform, and that gives US investors some accessibility of to trade and have a small part of our business, of our company, some shares, without having to, of course, have all the obligations of what a full formal listing would entail, which could be quite cumbersome. We already have sufficient duties to report with what we have to do in Europe as it is, and it's going to get even more challenging now with some of the environmental disclosure obligations of CSRD. But yes, I think both platforms are very important for us.
Well, thank you for the insight. Well, Federico, it's been a pleasure having you on the podcast, and it was great to speak with you today.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Thank you for joining us today. As a reminder, Heineken trades on the OTCQX Best Market under the symbols HEINY and HINKF. Thank you.
Thank you.